For years, if you'd asked me if I'd ever franchise Pest Badger, my answer was always the same: absolutely not. Honestly, I probably would have laughed at you. Fast forward to today, we just sold our first franchise, so naturally I get asked, so what changed? I spent about $80,000 learning about franchising, decided I still don't want to do it, built Pest Badger with corporate locations instead, and then one conversation changed the way I looked at the whole thing. I want to walk you through why I said no for so long, what finally changed my mind, and the type of person that we're actually willing to partner with. Hey guys, I'm Jonas, Olson, the founder of Pest Badger. I've been in the service industry for 17 years. Over the past 5 years, I've grown a pest control company from 1 location to 20 locations across 9 states. I use the channel to document how I think about building service businesses, but what's actually working for us. I wish my mentors would have documented their journey, so I'm documenting mine for you. So there's really 2 reasons why I didn't want to franchise ever. The first one was obviously quality. I talked to several people who had tried franchising and kept hearing the same version of the same story over and over again. They brought on franchisees, the standards started slipping, and customers didn't really care who owned the location. They just blamed the brand, and corporate ended up dealing with a bunch of problems that I just didn't want to deal with. We were spending years building Pest Badger. The last thing that I wanted was somebody in another market doing a bad job and give us a bad name with my name inside the truck. The second issue was valuation. I've been told that if we eventually wanted to sell the company, corporate-owned locations would generally be worth more than franchise locations. And at that time, I just thought, why would I ever want to spend the next 20 years building this thing and intentionally choosing a model that might make it worth less? So my answer was no. But I also just didn't want to make a decision that big based on a couple conversations. So as you guys know me, I went deep in it. I spent about $80,000 learning about franchising, how it worked. I talked with attorneys, I talked to consultants, operators who had been there and done it well, and people who failed. I talked to people who brought on 5 to 10 locations, and then it all fell apart. So I asked all these questions: why it worked, why it didn't work. Was it a partner issue? Was it a training issue? All the questions that I just need answers to. And after spending all that money and all that time, my answer was still no. Which, looking back, he said was kind of an expensive way to confirm what I had already thought. So we ended up going corporate. We opened locations ourselves, hired the people ourselves, built the infrastructure to support them. And we just kept doing that. We kept opening branches, we'd find a market, hire the people, we'd build the routes, get the operation running, and then we just go do it again somewhere else. And I thought we would just keep doing that. But as you guys know, Pest Badger kept growing, and people just started reaching out, asking if there was a way to partner with us. And it wasn't happening like once or twice. I was having these conversations all the time. A lot of them were already operators. They own lawn care companies, pest control companies, concrete businesses, home service businesses, and other route-based businesses themselves. And they weren't asking how to start a business. They were asking how they could plug into what we'd already built. And my first reaction was still no. Every time somebody brought it up, I immediately thought about what could go wrong. Are they going to answer the phones like we do? Are they going to take care of the customers? Are they going to hire the right people? What if their name isn't on the truck, but it's mine? Those are legitimate concerns. But when enough good operators keep asking you the same question, eventually you have to sit there and figure out whether there's a massive opportunity that you're ignoring. Then I had a conversation with someone who was running more than 450 locations across 50 plus countries. Some were corporately owned, and then some were franchised. I remember thinking, wait a minute, you own some of them and you franchise some of them? And I honestly hadn't thought about that way in a long time. In my head, franchising had always been the decision whether you're either owned everything or you franchise the entire company, not a mix of both. And they were doing both. And that conversation completely changed my thinking about it. We didn't have to stop opening corporate locations, and we didn't have to hand the entire company over to franchisees. We could continue owning locations in markets where they made sense, and we could partner with the right people and the right operators in other markets. Once I saw that, I started looking at what we had actually built differently. We already had the hiring systems, we had the training, we had the marketing, we had the technology, we had the call center, we had operations, we had reporting, we had pricing, we had models, we had service programs. We had already built this for 19 other locations. We had years of mistakes and years of adjustments that went into figuring all that out. So the question became less about whether I'd liked franchising and more about whether all those systems could help another good operator get where they wanted to go much faster. Then I had another conversation that answered those questions for me. This was just, again, the right time, right place, all in a good sequence, the way it's supposed to go. Hold up, quick pause. If you're on a pest control company or fertilization weed control company, you're not in our Facebook group, you're choosing the harder path. Every operator that's in there is skipping years of mistakes because people are actually sharing what's working right now. So stop trying to brute force your way through growth alone. Search Pest Control Millionaires on Facebook or click the link below. And now let's get back to it. good friend of mine reached out that I've known for years, and we had talked, frequently in the past. And he'd already built a fertilization weed control company to more than $3 million a year, and he wanted to add pest control to his business. So we jumped on a call, and we talked for like hour and a half. He asked me questions about pricing, products, hiring, training, software, marketing, call center, routes, basically everything that he needed to know to go figure this out on his own. And as you guys know me, I'm super transparent. I just gave him all the answers. And at the end of the call, I basically said, hey, if you need anything else, just let me know. Don't, always feel free to reach out to me. Then he said, well, what would it look like to partner with you? And I actually just kind of paused for a second, and I was like, what do you mean? And his answer made a ton of sense to me. He could spend the next 3 to 5 years trying to figure out pest control himself. He could make the big mistakes, build the systems, figure out the software, figure out the service programs, train and team, and learn all the things that we'd already spent years learning. Or he could just tap into what we had already built and buy back his time and effort. And that's when the moment really clicked for me. This guy didn't need Pest Badger because he didn't know how to run a business. He already built a $3 million company. He knew how to operate. He wanted to add another service line, and instead of just spending a year or 3 years reinventing the wheel, he wanted to tap into a system that was already working. And that's the type of partner that we're interested in. This is also why we're not going to sell a franchise to everybody who asks me. I've told so many people no in the past, and obviously going to continue to tell so many no in the future. I've had partners in the past. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. I know who I'm looking for. But if somebody thinks that, buying a Pest Badger franchise means that I'm going to go out there and build this business for them, it's probably not going to work. We're looking for motivated people. Obviously, we're looking for good operators, people who already have a company and want to grow their company, people who can lead, people who can follow systems, but also take ownership of their own market, people who understand we're giving them a head start, not doing the race for them. That's a rule for me. I'm not going to go out there and do the work for them. And trust me when I say the person matters more than territory. I've been there. I've done this. And I'd rather leave a market wide open than put the wrong person in it. Because everything I worried about years ago still is possible if you choose the wrong partner. I didn't change my mind because those risks just disappeared. I changed my mind because I finally saw a way to grow with the right people without giving up corporate side of business that we have already built. Looking back, I'm glad that I said no for as long as I did. If I had tried franchising when I was learning about it, I know for a fact that we weren't ready. I hadn't built enough yet, but I learned how to run a multi-unit location business, built up all the infrastructure for a corporate. Now that we have it for a corporate, we can open up to the franchisees to buy back their time. Today, somebody could just come into Pest Badger, tap into things that took us years, mistakes, money, probably millions of dollars to figure out. And that's what really changed my mind. The right operator isn't buying a Badger to put on the side of the truck. They're buying back their time. They're getting the systems, the processes, the support, and lessons that we've already paid for so they can go spend more time building their business instead of figuring everything out from scratch. And I understand that better now than ever because I've done the exact same thing with my mentors. The information isn't hard to find out there. The expensive part is the years it takes to figure out which information is actually working. If all somebody wants is a logo and a territory, we're not going to be a right fit, I promise you. But if they're already a good operator or they're good at sales, they want to build a great pest control business faster than I did, now we're having a completely different conversation. So if you've got questions about why we're franchising, what it looks like to partner with us, and why we're approaching it the way we are, make sure to put them in the comments. Obviously, I'm going to keep documenting my journey as we go. As always, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.